Are you a wedding photographer or aspiring wedding photographer that has no idea how to create a timeline? Do not worry. Today's video is for you. Or you could even be a wedding photographer who you're a little sick of creating tons and tons of timelines because they require so much personalization and so much focus time from you. NBD, I've got a solution for you. Welcome, I'm Tia. We are so glad that you are here at our channel watching this video. So let's jump right in. Here's the deal. You might be a wedding photographer who just booked your first client or who is getting close to the wedding day. And you're like, I do not even know how to create a timeline for them that works well for them, works well for their guests, and works well for me. I've got the solution for you. So we have a product that's called the Timeline Wizard that is in our shop. Do not worry, this is not just a promo for it. I'm gonna literally show you how to create a timeline. We're gonna jump in my computer in a hot sec, but the Timeline Wizard saves time, honestly saves lives. That's so dramatic, but it makes things so much easier. What the Timeline Wizard is basically, it's a timeline starter questionnaire that we send our clients so that they can fill out their preferences. So basically it's like yes, no questions for most of them. It takes them max 5 minutes to get on in there and fill it out. From there, we take that information, almost like data, and we put it in our Timeline Wizard, which is a spreadsheet. It has all kinds of formulas, like formulas galore. It is insane. It has what we call the secret sauce, which is what makes it happen. It's all working in the back for you. You input that data, like including your couple's names, including your name, if you have a second shooter's name, anything like that, and it spits out a timeline that is made for them based on their preferences. It is freaking insane. It shows about like travel time. It shows about different locations versus one location. It shows about modifying how long you like to take for each thing, like how long you like to take for a wedding party. In our Timeline Wizard product though, we also give you sample timelines that show how long Cam and I like to take. So if you're really unsure about like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how long this takes. I don't know how long it takes me to do bride and groom portraits or to do wedding party portraits. We got you in there. Super, super good. And then it has what we call a timeline delivery document. And that's just like how we present it to the client. We love this because oftentimes if our couples don't have like a full service planner or something, they're printing this off and it's shown all over the wedding day. So like their wedding party sees it, their family sees it, and all of them are able to see this just extra perk that we add to their entire client journey. So it's just a really awesome way for us to make their client journey flawless and exceptional. So with that, if that's something you're interested in, it's in our shop, CameronandTia.com/shop. I'll link it down below there for you so that you can find it, you can grab it. It's a super easy one-time purchase and then you own it. You can use it for every single one of your weddings. So from here, let's jump into my computer. Let me show you how I am creating a timeline.
Okay, so the first step that we do here is that we're going to evaluate their timeline starter questionnaire. So this is something that we send our clients to get answers back from them. It also helps us gently guide them to some timeline solutions and choices that are going to make sense for them through some intentional copy and wording that allows them to figure out like, okay, here's where our priorities lay. So I'm not going to go through this entire thing because it is for sale in our shop through the Timeline Wizard whole complete package, but this just gives me all of the data points to know like, okay, they need transportation time in between where they're getting ready and their ceremony or anything like that. We have them send us certain addresses so that we can exactly plan out how long it takes and how long we should plan for them. Okay, so next we're going to pull up the Timeline Wizard. And as you can see, it's this amazing spreadsheet and it has all kinds of options in here. So the biggest thing is that today we're just going to play on this first initial sheet, which is all that I use. Other people who purchase the Timeline Wizard can have override actions for certain times or lengths of times that they like to have as default lengths. But because this is personalized for me, it is good to go. And again, you could totally override this. So I'm going to go over here. And here we're going to put in their names. So I just add in Hannah. And then their name is Adam. And you can see when I enter or return or click outside of the box, it is personalizing it. So Tia joins Hannah. I'm going to see it says Cameron joins Juan. I'm going to click out of it and it's going to do Cameron joins Adam. Perfect. Good to go. That we're going to personalize the photographer team. So if there is not a second photographer, you just delete this, no big deal. It then personalizes it. So you can actually see there, I'm going to just type in Cam and press enter, watch the timeline on the right, how it's live updating. It adds in us splitting up. Otherwise, if there's just one photographer, it's going to have that one photographer photographing everything. So this first photographer is just whoever is with the first partner. So it just corresponds there. So like I typically go with the first partner, or I always go with the first partner. Cam goes with the second partner. So we're going to put in Cameron there again. Oops. No. Tia, and then Cameron. Perfect. Next thing is that these are automatically checked for yes, a first look, and yes, family portraits pre-ceremony. So that's a rhythm that we love to do, is do family portraits pre-ceremony as much as possible, unless they're required to have their ceremony earlier in the day, in which then we commonly have family portraits post-ceremony. So I'm going to show you this. Here are family portraits right here. I'm going to unclick this checkbox. And now you can see family portraits are once cocktail hour begins after the ceremony. Like,
Whoa.
I'm sorry, how cool is that? So that's just like the magic part of it. So I'm going to recheck that. I'm going to also show you first look. So I'm going to uncheck that. And then it requires you to uncheck family portraits pre-ceremony, right? Because I couldn't do family portraits if they haven't done a first look. I could do separate sides, but we don't do that because we don't think it's efficient. So we don't advocate for that in the timeline wizard. So I have to uncheck that, but then you're going to see everything repopulate. Boom. So now let's take a look. Cocktail hour begins. Wedding party portraits combined. Perfect. Family portraits, couples portraits. Amazing. So you will see that at the top here, pre-ceremony, we do wedding party portraits each side and individuals. Like, I'm sorry, I even know that we created this, but when I go through this, I'm like, I am freaking blown away. So I'm going to recheck here because we're going to look back at our timeline wizard and they are doing a first look, easy peasy. And then in this case, there's no required ceremony start time because you can see no rigid timeline. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just keep family portraits pre-ceremony. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the sunset. So all I'm going to do is Google sunset August 18th, 2024. Golden Valley, Minnesota, the location, because that's going to shift depending on what the location is. So then we'll see right up top here, 8:14 p.m. Perfecto. Let's go ahead and input that into the timeline wizard. So right here, I'm going to put 8:14. One thing to note is that this does round to the closest 15-minute increment. So you'll see down here, this is going to affect really how the entire day looks, depending on where the ceremony start time is, depending on when we go out for newlywed portraits. So I'm going to click out of here and you'll see that just snuck newlywed portraits up after dinner service has began to pre-toast. Now, this is one of my least favorite times to do newlywed portraits. It's one of these tricky times. I'm going to just show you like 9 p.m. Whoops. Which here in Minnesota is most of summer. So it's June, July, and it's really early August. Actually, it's mid-May through really early August, 9 p.m. So you can see here the dance floor is opened up, then we sneak them away, then they return. Also, look at all this inputting. So like Hannah and Adam hide, like, oh my gosh, how cool is that? So now here in this timeline extras is where we can add in travel time. So in this case, in the data that we've gathered from their timeline starter, they are not planning to travel. Again, we're putting together a rough draft for them. So if down the road they decide, oh my gosh, we have this really amazing suite that we want to travel to for getting ready, I'm able to input that here because that would be the travel from their suite to their first look. So that could be like to a portrait location, which could be off-site from the ceremony, which could be a different spot from the reception. Right here, we can personalize all of that. Now, there's two more non-standard overrides that we like to include on this first page. Remember, there are all kinds of override actions here, but these are ones that we know that other photographers use more readily, so we like to keep them on the first page. So this first is the ceremony start time override. So if they are required, typically like a Catholic church that requires a certain start time, I'm able to input that start time here, press enter, and then look at this. This is something super fun. It's going to tell us sunset portraits not ideal. So that means that the timeline wizard was kind of boxed into putting sunset portraits at some place that was not quite ideal. So you'll see sunset time is 9 p.m. Now the reason that everything is shift earlier in the day, and so we're not going out just like the 45 minutes prior to sunset where we're going to hit a really good golden hour, and that's because we do full day coverage. So if you have any questions about full day coverage, I'm going to put a video up here where you can learn all about our full day coverage, how we structure it, why it's really beneficial to both us and our clients. But this just got us in a sticky situation, which is like, people, you should not be having a 2 p.m. ceremony just all around for the guest experience. But let's say I overrode this to 4 p.m. Perfect. I am good to go. This redid the entire timeline for me. Now look how easy this is. Like this timeline is done, right? I might need to personalize a couple things, or maybe I want to shift some things. But in a lot of cases where we have clients who have a really standard day, not anything really complicated or any weird overrides, I'm able to copy this. I then put it on the delivery page and it's good to go. One more thing, I jumped ahead. I'm going to delete this because there's no override in Hannah and Adam's case. But first dance and cake cutting post dinner is currently checked. So I would say that's most common in the Midwest. Other people refer to when it's reversed, so when first dance and cake cutting is before dinner. So typically, like, they might have an entrance and then they go right into cake cutting and right into a first dance. I've heard that called both a West Coast style and an East Coast style. We've seen it both cases. We've photographed California weddings that have that way, and we've also photographed California weddings that have a first dance and a cake cutting post dinner. I think it's really, really common on the East Coast. We've only photographed 2 East Coast weddings, and both of them have been that way, where it goes grand march or grand entrance, first dance, rolling right into cake cutting, or grand march, cake cutting, rolling right into first dance. So in that case, in kind of the quote unquote East Coast or West Coast, I'm going to uncheck that because we don't want them post-dinner. We want them pre-dinner. So you're going to see that jumps them up to be reception entrance, first dance, cake cutting, welcome toast, and then dinner service begins. Okay, ta-da. So again, from here, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put it in the delivery template. And then from the delivery template, that's what I send our clients. So I don't just like try to copy and paste this into an email. Obviously, that's not beneficial for them. They can't really utilize it. They can't share it with their wedding party, with their family, with their other vendors. And it doesn't really look that professional. So I want to make sure that they can utilize it and that it looks great. It's a great representation of our brand. So that's why I use that timeline delivery template that comes right with the Timeline Wizard. Ta-da!
Ooh, how was that, you guys? Super fast, super speedy, super easy. That is what we love about it. Again, if you're interested in the Timeline Wizard, it's linked down below. You can head to our shop. But otherwise, we hope that this was super insightful, super educational, so that you can get a sense for how we're creating timelines, how that timing feels, and really how long it's taking us to create each one for each wedding couple. If you have any questions, drop them down below. And until next time, bye.